What recently happened on a public transportation unit in London has once again ignited the outrage of thousands of citizens. A woman was attacked without any provocation while traveling on a bus in broad daylight. According to witnesses, the attacker was reportedly a migrant, and while that label shouldn't matter, for many Londoners, this no longer feels like an isolated incident, but rather part of a pattern that is repeating itself with increasing frequency. The scene, captured on video by passengers, shows the moment the victim is aggressively confronted amid shouting and threats. The rest of the passengers, visibly shaken, could only record the incident and try, unsuccessfully, to intervene. And while all of this unfolded in a public space, with no immediate police presence or rapid response, what has truly sparked frustration is the reaction, or rather the lack thereof, from those governing the city. Under Sadiq Khan's administration, London has undergone a transformation that many now describe as deeply concerning. What was once viewed as a vibrant, safe, and proudly diverse capital has become an environment where fear has become part of daily life. Women in particular are beginning to change their routines, avoiding certain routes or refraining from traveling alone out of fear of being harassed or attacked. The real tragedy is not just the violent act itself, alarming as it is, but the broader atmosphere of permissiveness, institutional silence, and indifference from those who should be responding urgently. The mayor has repeatedly been accused of ignoring the rising reports of crime, focusing more on politically correct rhetoric than on implementing strong measures for public protection. The numbers don't lie. Incidents on public transport have surged, and while the population demands real solutions, the official response seems consistently geared toward justifying the unjustifiable, downplaying victims' testimonies, or deflecting attention towards secondary debates. What should be a top priority, the everyday safety of citizens, is being sidelined in favor of agendas that fail to address the harsh reality being lived out in the streets, on the buses, and in the neighborhoods. What's most alarming is that this is not an isolated case. All it takes is a glance at recent reports or a conversation with any regular user of public transportation to understand that these kinds of assaults have become increasingly common. There is a widespread sense of abandonment. Citizens feel they are on their own, that they have to look out for one another because the authorities are more concerned about not offending political sensitivities than addressing the root of the problem. On social media, footage of the attack quickly went viral, but as has become the norm, instead of firm responses or statements showing a true commitment to public safety, all that followed was silence. A silence that offends, that enrages, that leaves victims helpless and emboldens perpetrators with the sense that they can act with impunity. And while Mayor Sadiq Khan continues to attend media events and speak about inclusion and diversity, security cameras keep recording daily crimes that go unanswered. How is it possible that a city with such vast resources, with a supposedly modern and capable police force, allows women to travel in fear, citizens to walk constantly looking over their shoulders, and crime to become normalized? The issue is not diversity, nor where people come from. The real problem is the complete lack of consequences. It's the official narrative that denies the obvious. It's the disconnection between the political elites and everyday people, the ones who wake up early to work, who rely on a bus or train every day, and who now increasingly wonder if they'll make it home without being harassed, assaulted, or worse. Something is profoundly broken when a city like London, once admired for its order, strong institutions, and cosmopolitan character, is reduced to daily crime headlines that would once have seemed out of place. And the worst part is that it's no longer shocking. People are growing numb because there are no answers and no one held accountable. And in the midst of all this chaos, what has been completely lost is trust. Trust in institutions, in political leadership, in the police. The kind of trust that once allowed a woman to travel alone at night without constantly looking over her shoulder. The trust that gave parents peace of mind when their daughters took the bus or the subway. That trust is shattered, and rebuilding it will not be an easy task. Every assault that goes uncondemned, every victim who receives no justice, every case that is silenced to avoid upsetting certain sectors adds to a collective wound that grows deeper by the day. Citizens feel as though they're being asked to adapt to a new normal where the unacceptable must be tolerated, where fear is just part of the journey, where warnings are ignored until there's blood on the pavement or a video goes viral on social media. And in that vacuum of authority, the message being sent is dangerous, that attackers can act without consequences, that victims are alone, that crime is just another statistic. Meanwhile, empty slogans are recited from local government offices. They speak of inclusive cities and community resilience, but fail to mention what's essential, that true inclusion cannot exist if some citizens live in fear and some aggressors feel untouchable. The situation becomes even more alarming when considering that the police, in many cases, also fail to act with the necessary firmness. Whether due to political directives, understaffing, or fear of being accused of discrimination, many officers have chosen not to intervene in certain crimes, especially when there's a risk that their actions might be misinterpreted. And so, the perception deepens that everything is out of control, that there is no real authority, just a theater of bureaucratic protocols that protect no one. This is not about embracing hateful rhetoric or looking for scapegoats. It's about demanding accountability from those who swore to protect the public, because safety cannot be sacrificed at the altar of ideology, because no public policy makes sense if it doesn't first guarantee the fundamental right to live without fear. London, once synonymous with stability and respect, is now crumbling under the weight of misguided political decisions and a systematic denial of reality. The voices raising the alarm about this crisis are not extremists or alarmists. They are ordinary citizens who have seen their quality of life erode, their public spaces become more dangerous, and the promises of protection remain unfulfilled. And as the assaults continue to multiply on buses, in underground stations, and on busy streets, many are left wondering, what has to happen for the authorities to react? How much longer will this spiral of impunity be allowed to continue? How many more women must fall victim before safety stops being just an electoral slogan and becomes a genuine priority? Outrage is slowly turning into frustration, and that frustration is felt in everyday conversations, in cafes, supermarket lines, office hallways, and school corridors. Because the fear women feel when boarding a bus is no longer an exaggeration or an isolated anecdote, it's a shared reality, a reflection of what has been allowed to grow through omission, political cowardice, or a dangerous need to appease certain groups while abandoning the majority. The city is full of scars, not just physical ones, but social ones. Neighborhoods that were once peaceful are now marked by tension. Routes that used to be routine are now navigated with constant vigilance. And the worst part is that the authorities have not only failed to reverse this trend, they seem more concerned with managing their public image than with courageously confronting the issues affecting their citizens. Every unaddressed crime, every incident downplayed for ideological reasons, every victim erased out of fear of stigmatization, builds up a collective anger that will not be soothed by empty speeches or PR campaigns. Because people don't need promises, they need protection. They need to walk through their city without feeling like they're in hostile territory. They need institutions that act with justice, not political calculation. And while London's current leadership continues to talk about diversity, progress, and modernity, it ignores the voices of those who are living through a security crisis that keeps getting worse. You can't call a city fair, and just when its women feel the need to get off before the last stop, avoid certain transport lines, or alter their schedules just to avoid being assaulted. That's not progress, that's regression, and one of the worst kinds. This situation won't be solved by blaming any one group, but it will be solved by demanding that the law be applied equally, that public safety be prioritized without fear of backlash, and that the voices of those who've been ignored for years finally be heard, because a society that does not protect its women cannot call itself civilized. And if you too believe it's time to raise your voice, to stop normalizing violence, and to demand that those in power take responsibility, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon, leave your comment below, and share this video with anyone who needs to wake up to what's happening in our city. This is not an isolated case, this is an urgent call, and together we can make sure it's heard. See you in the next video.